Stories from Upanishads, retold by Arghya Goswami.
Episode Satyameva Jayate from Mundaka Upanishad. This story features in Mundaka Upanishad. In the Upanishad, most of the content is weaved around dialogues between the great sage Angirasa and his disciple named Shonak, who was a householder or grihastha. Once, while conversing with his disciple, the great sage narrated a story about two birds. On a tree, two birds used to perch together. Let's name the bird which generally used to perch on the lower branch of the tree as lower bird, and the bird which generally used to perch on the higher branch as the higher bird. The lower bird always thought of her companion, the higher bird, and believed that she is somewhere near her. However, as she was thinking about her friend, she sees a juicy, luscious fruit hanging on a different branch of the tree. As soon as she sees the fruit, all the thoughts of her friend are wiped off her mind as she readily flies towards the fruit and eats it. Once she has finished eating the enticing succulent fruit, her mind again wanders and thinks for her best friend, the higher bird. As she is lost in her thoughts of her friend and tries to find her amongst the dense branches of the tree, she sees another piquant fruit which looks more delicious than the previous one. The thoughts of her friend wane, and she immediately hops towards it, and even though she is not hungry, and gobbles it up quickly. While eating the last bit of the fruit, she spots another one on a different branch of the tree. However, to her disbelief, her small tummy was already full of two servings of exquisite fruits, and this time she thinks to wait until the next day. But suddenly her wise thoughts were overshadowed by another thought. What if that fruit is not there tomorrow? What if that fruit is eaten by some other bird? What if I'm not able to locate this delicious fruit tomorrow? What if I die of starvation? These terrible thoughts completely swamped her sense of understanding, and consumed by these, she flies towards it and quickly swallows it. In the meantime, the higher bird was perching quietly on the higher branch of the tree, watching her friend, the lower bird, hopping from one branch to another and gobbling up one fruit after another. She also realized that her friend, the lower bird, was not troubled by the fact that she does not need her company and was busy munching the fruits below. However, she knew that eventually her friend, the lower bird, will come to her when her work is done. One day, while the lower bird was hopping from branch to branch and devouring fruit after fruit, something unexpected happened. She happily nibbled at the fruit which looked exquisite. She quickly flew to that branch where that delectable looking fruit was hanging, and without thinking anything else devoured the fruit. However, to her disillusionment, it was unbearably bitter. As she lurches in self pity and failed effort, she again thinks about her friend, the higher bird. She thought to herself that she must narrate her tale of woe to her friend, the higher bird, as she is the one who truly understands her plight. Thus, she looks up at her friend, the higher bird, and prepares to fly towards her with full gratitude and vague feeling of guilt. As she is in her mid flight towards her friend, she suddenly spots another juicy, delicious looking fruit in another branch of the same tree. All the thoughts of her friend vanish immediately from her mind, and she changes her flight course and glides away towards the branch where the fruit was hanging. She repeated the same cycle of frantic and pointless activity. After narrating this story, the great sage Angiras paused. The sage asked his disciple, O Shaunak, what do you infer from this story? Shaunak smiled and said, O Venerable One, thank you for this beautiful story. I understand now. The lower bird is the lesser self or Atman, comprised of senses, the mind, and the intellect. The higher bird is the supreme self or Brahman. Both rest on the same tree, that is the body. The lower self or Atman is too distracted by delicious fruits all around. This indicates the temptations from materialistic world and chasing after them. And while doing this, forget about the friend, the higher bird who is waiting patiently above. Only when she comes across a bitter fruit which she cannot eat, she thinks about her friend the higher bird and wanted to tell her about her woes. This indicates the bitter life experiences that we face, and then the lower self or Atman goes in search of the higher one, that is the Brahman, looking for the solace, compassion, and reassurance. Angiras listened patiently and waited for Shaunak to complete. When he was done, the sage said, That's not all, O Shaunak. Let me tell you about my thoughts on this story. He continued, When the lesser self or Atman finally reaches the supreme self or Brahman on his 10th, 100th, or 1000th attempt, it realizes that it has been deluded or misled by the count as well. There has never been another bird. As she merges into the golden radiance that has been her constant companion, it finally dawns on the lower bird that the friend she looked up to and adored it is none other than herself. Shaunak immediately raised the desire. O Venerable One, how I wish I could get there myself someday. Angiras was happy and was touched by his student's yearning. He said, O Shaunak, as you can see, this flight towards the higher bird is not an easy one. It cannot be attempted by the weak, the witless, and those who flounder aimlessly in life, but through right knowledge and constant practice of austerities, meditation, and living a life of truth, you can certainly get there. Then he recited, Satyameva Jayate nanartam satyena panatha vitato devayana yena kramante rasyo yapta kama yatra tatra satyasya paramam nidhanam, which means truth alone triumphs, not untruth. By truth is laid out the divine path which the seers who are free from desires reach to the supreme abode of truth. The sage continued, Know this, O dear student Shanak, he who knows the supreme Brahman becomes Brahman himself. He overcomes the grief, rises above all aberrations, becomes free from the knots of heart, and attains immortality. It is only to those who perform the rites with dedication, know and understand the scriptures well, make themselves the offering in the inner sacrificial fire with faith, are devoted to Brahman, that the knowledge of Brahman may be revealed. Tad etat satyam. This is the truth. Salutations to the great sages. Salutations to the great sages. That was today's podcast. If you really like my effort in producing these podcasts, please do like, share, and subscribe to my channel. It will not cost you anything to like and subscribe, but it will provide me a huge impetus to create more and more videos and podcasts like this. So, until then, my friends,
Shanti, Shanti, Shanti.
you can also listen to my audio podcast in various podcast players such as Apple Podcast, Amazon Music, Ghana, Podtail, Podcast Addict. Now it is also listed in Indian podcast list. Also, please visit my website https www.storiesfromupanishads.com. Please do check it out. Moreover, you can also write to me at arghyathinks@gmail.com. That is ARGHYATHINKS at gmail.com. Thank you.